Good afternoon, you way bastards, and welcome back to World of Warships with Koala, and welcome aboard the mighty Prinz Eugen, premium tier 8 German heavy cruiser, and yes, that is how you say it. If I hear one more Eugen... This is actually the ship that joined the battleship Bismarck in ending HMS Hood's career in the Battle of Denmark Strait in 1941. She was the third of 5 heavy cruisers of the Admiral Hipper class, an absolutely beautiful ship. And she's being sailed out for us today by Paul Faradi, who you may recognise as the captain of the Ismail from my video on Russian battleships a couple of months ago. I think it's somewhat ironic that War Thunder is now introducing this ship, well, the Admiral Hipper, alongside the Mogami and the Chapayev, and lo and behold, I'm here covering her in World of Warships instead. Is that irony, or is that just subliminal messaging? Anyway, I've been asking some of the lads on the Discord who hang out in our World of Warships channel, shout out to that by the way, please do come join the 1,000 members of our steadily growing Discord server. But I've been asking for some heavy cruiser replays, as it's actually the only ship type I haven't yet covered. The only one I have so far is the US Navy's Pensacola class at tier 6, and I suck with the Pensacola. But it seems like most of the World of Warships players in my community don't really play heavy cruisers all that often either, so when Paul Faradi sent me a message asking if I'd like this particularly good Prinz Eugen replay, I knew it'd be worth checking out. I think the reason there aren't as many fans of heavy cruisers these days is down to just how many battleships there are being played. As you can see in this team list, each team has 5 battleships, that's 10 in the match, along with 10 cruisers, most of them light cruisers, and yet only 2 destroyers, along with 2 tier 6 aircraft carriers. Our team has HMS Furious, the enemy have USS Ranger. So Paul Faradi's got into a nice favourable down tier, plenty of light cruisers with big juicy Citadels on the enemy team. This should be good. As for the battleships, well, we'll get to that. It's funny the way the World of Warships meta changes over time, because it seems like it's always changing. Different buffs and nerfs coming to certain ship types see them being played more or less frequently, which changes how you have to play to counter them. For example, when the carrier rework came into play, battleships were less often patrolling around the rear sections of the map. Well, they still do that, of course, the lazy bastards. But more frequently, they'll be seen taking the flanks and advancing across the map more quickly. This made destroyers more prevalent for a little while, before everyone caught on to the fact that, uh-oh, carriers are really good at getting destroyers killed now. So this worked against destroyers, which in turn brought light cruisers into play more. They could HE spam down the advancing battleships, nothing a light cruiser enjoys more than an advancing battleship on one flank, and they were also good at fending off the steadily dwindling numbers of DDs. It actually got to the point where you were likely to see more carriers in your match than there were destroyers. Oh, uh-oh, Shorts. I think you may have made a bad decision here. Light cruiser facing down a German heavy at this range? Yeah, 3 guesses how this is going to go. Just get detected by the Shorts as he gets a line of sight around the island and... Wait, seriously? 7 ricochets with 8-inch armor piercing against a light cruiser. Only 600 damage from that salvo. Paul Faradi, did you not visit the Church of Our Jesus this Sunday? Oh well. Not to worry, because like everything German, even the damn battleships for some ungodly reason, the Prinz Eugen is fitted with some nasty torpedoes. I didn't actually see the beginning part of this match. I turned on the replay, hit record, and went to make myself a cup of tea. Thought, well, he's in a heavy cruiser. First part of the game won't likely be all that exciting, just setting up for an engagement. I'll see that when I watch the footage back through. Then I came back to the PC, saw 2 torpedo hits, 22,000 damage in the First Blood award. Anyway, there go the Shor's torpedoes, didn't have nearly the range to hit, and if you look, Paul Faradi has gone completely undetected. Which means A, the fun police are occupied dive bombing some other poor sod right now, and B, absolutely no other ship on the enemy team bothered with this flank. If they had, Paul Faradi be getting lit up by now. The Prinz Eugen surface detection range is... well, it's not great. It's noticeably more than the Baltimore or the Mogami. In fact, she has the worst surface detection range of any tier 8 cruiser, I believe. She does have exceptional range, however, for a tier 8 cruiser, and because none of the enemy ships took this flank, or at least none but the late Shores, Paul Faradi is able to use these islands as cover to block line of sight, while being able to fire at the cruisers and battleships advancing towards the central portion of the map on the other side. which is not something you usually expect to be able to do this early into the game. This whole lane down here is usually a no-go zone for a cruiser this early, because there'll be something waiting for you on the other side, stopping you from reaching far enough to shoot through the gap between those two islands. Now, of course, as the ship progresses forward, the angle of the ship compared to the gap between those two islands flattens out, and he can't help but be spotted by the Nagato. Now, I'm just going to pause it right here. You see that Furious advancing directly towards the middle of the map? What are you doing, man? Well, our only aircraft carrier support for this match is committing ritual suicide by a Russian battleship. So that means the enemy team are going to have the distinct advantage, having the only aircraft carrier up, and they're also going to be able to even out the number of kills as well. I try to defend aircraft carriers, I really do. But do they deserve it? Oh boy, I have no words. I do not have the words. Anyway, I was talking before about the meta of the game, and while Pulferrari is making its move into the map, where were we? What was I saying? Oh, that's right, carriers. So, we had the carrier rework. That changed how battleships were played. Then, as carrier players caught on to just how powerful they could be versus a destroyer, even if they themselves weren't necessarily the ones sinking the destroyer, they completely took away their stealth ability if used well. That made destroyers a little less prevalent. They no longer had as reliable stealth, they couldn't ambush ships as easily, and they just didn't have the anti-aircraft firepower to defend themselves when compared to, say, a light cruiser, which is also an effective destroyer killer, as well as an effective battleship killer, although not with torpedoes, but by spamming high explosive shells and dealing the damage over time. For a little while, this made heavy cruisers even more useful, as they could Citadel the crap out of all the CLs hiding behind islands, not watching their minimaps, and just raining down high explosive spam against oncoming hordes of battleships. Speaking of Citadels, there goes one against the Nagato, and the Pensacola behind Pulferrari is the one who secures the kill. Anyway, the problem then became that with less destroyers around, it actually became less dangerous to play a battleship. You could be a wee bit more daring, and the recent changes to anti-aircraft gunnery improved battleships even more. They became almost safe from aircraft if they were travelling near to each other, overlapping their AA screens. Oh, there's that Bayard, saw him coming a mile away. Guns to bear. Slam on the brakes. And is he going to come out from behind the island? Actually, he's just managed to get himself rammed into the island, so he's going to take a whopping hit from the armor piercing here. Unfortunately, only the rear turrets, the front two, were blocked by the island, otherwise that Bayard would probably have been deleted, but there's 3 Citadels. Yeah, this armor piercing is damned good. So anyway, now you've got carriers discouraging destroyer gameplay, light cruisers sitting behind islands abusing the battleships, which are being ever more aggressive because there are less and less dangers for them to worry about sailing into, and adversely, they have to advance in order to root out the light cruisers and put an end to the rain of fire coming down on them. So why would you play a heavy cruiser? Now, I'm sure the temptation for Pulferrari was just to continue backing out of the islands a wee bit and try and finish off that Bayard, but might have taken just a wee bit more high explosive damage than it would have been worthwhile, and I'm sure the Pensacola and the Queen Elizabeth can finish that guy off nice and quickly. Yep, and there he goes. We've also got to worry about the base being capped, because even though Pulferrari's team has a large numbers advantage right now, rather than protecting the cap, the friendly ships to the southwest are scattered in every direction away from the enemy ships coming at them from the north. But I mean, with battleships being just as aggressive as heavy cruisers in the current meta, I mean that Ismail is living proof of that, look at him, no fear. But you're effectively just trading all of your armor for a faster reload, while having much smaller guns. I mean, compare your quintessential 8-inch heavy cruiser guns to the 15, 16, and even 18-inch guns of the battleships you'll see, and you don't really have an advantage in firepower even with that reload. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Citadel the Ismail. Now, with the Germans, well, they're obviously still played frequently enough, as are the Japanese, and to a lesser extent the Americans. For one, the Germans and Japanese don't have any high-tier light cruisers, unless there's some hidden premium light cruiser I'm forgetting. Probably am. But two, when it comes to the German heavy cruisers, the Hepper, Prinz Eugen, the Rune, and the Hindenburg... Oh blimey, you just Citadel that Ismail to death. But the German heavy cruisers favour extremely... well, perhaps aggression is the wrong word, but Extremely active gameplay. For one, they have great survivability. They have decent armor, a turtleback armor scheme protecting the Citadel, which in turn is mostly underwater, and they have a heal, which if you ally that with, is it Last Stand? Adrenaline Rush. I should know that. But if you put those two together, you have a decent reload when you lose the HP, and then once the immediate threat is past, or if things are looking a wee bit too dicey for you, you can heal that HP back again. Paul Ferrari's got his Hydro running, detected the torpedoes from the Leningrad way early, knew they were coming. Gee, the friendly torpedoes actually came closer to being dangerous to him, but luckily they didn't have the range. So, you have high survivability. You're a tough ship to take down, for a heavy cruiser. Next, your guns. They're probably important. Probably should have been number one, actually. But people like to talk up the American armor piercing of their 8-inch guns. Well, the Germans is better. Now there of course goes to Leningrad. Paul Ferrari had him hydroed the entire time, and the Minsk actually managed to torpedo him while he was backed up against an island. That's going to be embarrassing. And for when you need to fire at longer ranges than the German cruisers, or at angled targets where even your armor piercing just isn't going to cut it, the German cruisers have 1/4 high explosive shell penetration, which means you take the diameter of the gun, in this case 8 inches, divide it by 4, and that's how much armor your high explosive will penetrate. It's divided by 6 for most guns, but not for German cruisers and battleships, British battleships, and Japanese gunboat destroyers. You also, of course, get your torpedoes with German ships, obviously Hydro, that's no big surprise for a cruiser at tier 8, and a catapult fighter for those fatherless goblins playing their tier 8 aircraft carriers. You do also have some very respectable anti-aircraft firepower. I know that some players do kit the Prinz Eugen out in an AA build. It doesn't look like we're going to need that for too much longer, because here comes our second suicidal carrier, going straight into the middle of the map. There's 2 more Citadels on him, and the Atago takes him out. Now, I've no idea why Paul Ferrari didn't take the shot at the Fiji then. He probably could have just nicked the Citadel, even if it was only with 1 shell from the front turret. Worth a shot, right? I mean, you know what they say, you miss every shot you don't take. And he probably could have been reloaded in time to take this second shot as the Fiji comes out from behind the island, still broadside. There's another 2 Citadels, that's 10 now, and almost 137,000 damage. And if you take a look, even playing an extremely aggressive heavy cruiser, Paul Ferrari's only just taken down to half health, and he's only used 1 of his heals. There we go, finish off the Fiji. That's only our second kill for this game. Let's see if we can clean up 1 more on one of these last 2 remaining battleships, but it doesn't really look like we're in too much danger of losing this game. There's the Gneisenau, and there's Vladivostok over down to the southwest. So here's where the survivability and remaining health and heals are going to come in nice and handy, because we're stuck in open water now, at least if we want to get close enough to really be effective against these battleships, and I believe the Vladivostok can actually overmatch the bow plating of the Prinz Eugen and Citadel it bypass that turtleback armour. The one thing I neglected to mention a second ago is that with a Cotter HE pen, Paul Ferrari may have been better served staying in amongst the islands firing from longer ranges intentionally, because with 51mm of penetration, these German 8-inch high explosive rounds can actually penetrate the deck armour of battleships and do full damage. An American or Japanese high explosive couldn't do that, even against the Vladivostok. Having said that, one mark against the German heavy cruisers is that their HE isn't the most effective thing in the world. Prinz Eugen's HE only does 2500 average damage, which is certainly not bad, but it's on the low side. There has to be some drawbacks to this ship, right? So, as far as my conversation on the meta of World of Warships goes, while Paul Ferrari is just absolutely laying the heat into the Gneisenau and switching his attention over to the Vladivostok, there's one interesting question left to ask. What about submarines? For those of you who are in my existing community and possibly don't keep up to date with World of Warships news, in which case, why are you watching this video? Submarines are going to be released in a play test mode for players very soon. They were showcased at Gamescom a couple of weeks ago. So how might they change the meta when they arrive? What do I think of them? Well, there are several things that could happen. If you saw Jingle's latest video on the destroyer HNLMS Friesland, that thing could prove quite a threat to submarines with the anti-submarine rockets, and this is something I do expect. Over time, Wargaming will release new ships with special anti-submarine based weaponry, perhaps even some carrier-borne aircraft with anti-submarine warfare equipment. Basically, they'll introduce the new class all at once, and then its counters will be drip-fed to us over time. No complaints from me there. With destroyers proving the only significant threat to submarines, at least right now, it's likely that their introduction will see more destroyers being played, and both submarines and destroyers are the biggest threat to battleships since the AA rework. So what I see, and now I could be completely wrong, I should have prefaced this whole meta discussion by saying that this is all down to my own experiences and what I've heard from other players I've spoken to. Your experiences and opinions might be completely different. But what I'm hoping will happen is that the introduction of submarines and the subsequent popularity of destroyers will return some of the danger to battleship gameplay that's not been quite as prevalent over the last few months, reduce the number of battleships in your average match, and force them to play a wee bit less aggressively. That should in turn make heavy cruisers, well, more worth playing, which I see as a good thing. Anyway, I've almost completely skipped over the gameplay in this match. Pulferati, along with a couple of other members of his team, are now approaching the Vladivostok to secure the final kill. Even if they were to fail, the Queen Elizabeth is in the camp right now, and if you noticed, Pulferati stopped firing for a minute just as he neared that island off to his port side, right as the Vladivostok, nearing the map border, was forced to begin turning around. That means the Vladivostok was expecting him to pop out on the other side of that island, down where the Fiji is now, while in actual fact,
he went completely the other way.
Aside from that, I think you lads will have been able to see the tactics and strategies employed during this match. I don't need to waffle on about them, so I hope you've enjoyed my background discussion. I'm going to leave you guys here as the team puts down the Vladivostok and wins the game by a landslide. Lads and ladies, Pulferati in the KMS Prinz Eugen, 3 kills, 12 Citadel hits, and 200,000 damage. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and that if you did, you leave a like, subscribe and hit that bell icon, join the 360 squad, and make sure to leave your thoughts on this ship, this match, and this video in the comments section down below. I'm interested to know your thoughts on submarines being added. I'm honestly not too worried about them being as annoying as carriers. I don't think they'll be nearly as bad. Anyway, come follow me on Twitter and Twitch, join the Discord, and check out Patreon or hit that join button here on YouTube if you wish to support me further. Thank you lads so much for watching, have a lovely good day. And always remember, keep your bagpipes to hand, keep your kilt on, and I shall see you next video. I say a wee thank you to these lads for supporting me on Patreon. Captain Fubar, DA261, Gisli Gadarson, and Dark Recon. You lads are bra. If you wish to join them, come check out the link in the description below.